Never before would I have thought I'd be doing so much Sydney Colson content. Not that she didn't make good content before, not that she wasn't on a good team before, but her profile has been elevated due to the new team that she has joined. Something she seems to get. Obviously, she's coming from what was the most high profile team, I'd say, in the WNBA until Caitlin Clark arrived in the Las Vegas Aces. So she's around more attention than some of the other teams in the league in the past, or has been around, but it's about to go to a whole nother level. And Coulson is going to be a role player on the Fever, bringing perimeter defense, a backup ball handler, some outside shooting perhaps, and the veteran leadership that she has from winning a championship in Vegas. But she met with the assembled media today and hit on several points that are both obvious, but nice to hear someone share because they prove they can understand common sense. Here was Coulson on Caitlin Clark's impact.
Like to watch what Caitlin did for this franchise from afar, different perspective.
Yeah, no, it was nuts. There's no other way to say it. It was nuts. I think, you're seeing a team that's now like affecting the economy in the city. You got people coming from out of town, out of state, out of the country, maybe even to see games, and so that's special.
You've been studying.
Huh?
You've been studying those studies.
Yeah, man, I try to pay attention, but no, it's been cool to see. Caitlin's a remarkable player. She's going to be good here for a long time, so I know people are excited about her future here.
Like to watch.
So there you have that on Caitlin Clark. But it went beyond just Clark, of course, because there are other layers to unpack in regards to that. One of those things was about the fans and the support that she may get from the Fever fan base.
Been in your impressions of the people and the facilities that now will be home?
I'm super excited about it. I'm going from a team that was a very in the media, like people are excited to watch us, into another team that is arguably the most talked about team in sports right now, especially in women's sports. So this fan base, it's exciting to be a part of a team that has a lot of positive energy around it. I hear and see the things that people say, but I know the true Indiana Fever fans, the ones that love basketball, that they love the WNBA, I'm excited to be playing in front of them and just with this team.
So when she says I hear and see the things, she's referencing the trolls or whatever that became a narrative about Fever fans. So she tried to draw a distinction there to say, I see that, but I understand who the real basketball fans are and the ones that are excited to watch me play. So I understand where she was coming from there. And then and trying to draw that distinction because she's going to get, and everybody gets the energy they put out because the Fever fans are going to rally around her and the team. But one aspect of that they found interesting is when she said that the sentence, the most talked about team in sports. Think about that for a second. Would you ever in the history of anything have thought that a women's sports team would be the most talked about team in sports? A women's basketball team, arguably more talked about than any NBA team. And she did qualify it by saying arguably, but it wouldn't have been an argument ever before. That is part of the magnitude of the shift that we're seeing, what is so amazing about what is taking place and why it should be embraced. And then finally, Sydney Colson touched on a point that I've made 1,000 times, made it earlier today, in regards to what Nafisa Collier had to say. And again, no diss to Fee, just the premise that was broached to her about the Fever national TV games as if it was a bad thing. But Coulson seems to have a clear understanding on that as well.
What do you anticipate it being like to be part of all these sellouts and being the biggest show on wherever you go now?
I think it's going to be awesome. I think it's going to be remarkable. And what I always thought about when I was on a team that wasn't getting that kind of visibility, whenever you go play the teams that are, that's when you bring your best game. Because now it's all eyes on your team too, and people, hopefully will be tuning into our games and seeing players from other teams that they like, that are exciting, because there are a lot of good players around this league. So I think what we're going to be able to do, what the Aces, the New Yorks, what we're able to do is elevate the game and get people to respect our entire league, not just a few teams.
And we've already seen that. We've already seen it happen. We're seeing it in the process of continuing to happen. And you hope those other teams The Chicago is another team that when they play the Aces, that can be a showdown of its own. Or when the Liberty have a rematch with the Lynx, that can be a showdown of its own. And various combinations. Now, let's say Paige Beckers winds up in Dallas, Kelsey Plum with the Los Angeles Sparks. I mean, there are more and more possibilities there in the way that can unfold and can happen. But last season was the best evidence of that. I mean, so many players had their profile raised because of what happened last year, and that can happen again. That can happen again. The Connecticut Sun, think about that. Like that, no offense to the Connecticut Sun, but I can't think of another professional team framed around in that regard, in that market, that, in the major sports, that got the light shined on them the way that they did. Obviously, UConn basketball is a big thing on the collegiate level, but I'm just using them as an example. There are so many different other examples. There's the example on the Fever team. Kelsey Mitchell is a great example, somebody whose profile was raised from playing with the Fever. Sydney Colson is an example now who, even though she came from the Aces, her profile is going to be raised even more. Asia Wilson's star status raised last year. Angel Reese continues to shine. The Liberty have a bunch of players. Sabrina Ionescu, most notably, probably one from a profile standpoint. Arike Agumbawale in the All-Star game. That's a good one. How many people had their eyes open to Arike Agumbawale because they watched the All-Star game, who didn't know who she was previously? Nafisa Collier. And that translated over to Unrivaled, where some of these players are bigger stars at Unrivaled. When that league starts and into the next year, where the pipeline gets better and the new stars coming in. I mean, I feel like a broken record, but it is it's nice to see somebody not spitting in the face of that, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So in regards to Sydney Colson, who jokes about being the face of the WNBA, has joked about it. She's now playing with the face of the WNBA, in the face of women's sports, really, in the face of basketball, perhaps. And a lot more faces get recognized as a result of that, both on that team and who that team plays against. And then that has a trickle-down effect across the rest of the league. It still irritates me that the question on First Take was positioned as only 32 national televised games for the Liberty. That's a lot of national TV games. May not be as many as the Fever, but it does show you, the league as a whole is growing. And so did the finals ratings after the Fever were out. I don't understand why it's so hard for so many to understand the common sense, but Coulson gets it.